Hey there. So we're going to deal with a couple of quick announcements for the technically itchy in our audience. There will be videos playing, and most of them will have no sound. This is by design. They are there for context, not for you to be listening to. All right? So don't worry about that. Also, these videos may freeze at some point with a relevant image that will stay there. This is also by design, which will help us to focus on the idea that I'm talking about. I worked with Mickey, our tech person. She very diligently helped me to make sure that everything is going to work as best as we can possibly do it, and I have absolute confidence. She probably does not get enough appreciation for that, so let's give her a round of applause. She's doing here and for you folks watching at home. So my name is Saul Ravencraft. I do a monthly hosted horror film called Ravencraft's Vault of Horror. And tonight we're going to talk about one of the people that I dearly admire. His name is William Castle. Now this guy, he was born in 2014, and about 1914, listen to me, see, cut those digits off, I don't know what's going on. But in about 1939, he began his film directing career. He was doing film noir, right? You know, the gritty detective films and all that kind of thing. But about 1958, William Castle had a revelation. He realized that he wanted to scare the pants off of people. And so that's really how he moved his raison d'etre. Now, he did a lot of crazy stuff. And it's perfect that we are in this room because this is the exact atmosphere that was going on at the time that William Castle wanted to do these films. The carnivals and the freak shows and the hoaxes and all of that kind of thing that were going on. And people weren't upset about them. It was all intended to be fun, right? They weren't selling you something except, you know, go pay your quarter to see the world's smallest horse, right? But that was the atmosphere. And I think, honestly, William Castle knew that his movies were not going to be as scary as he told people they were going to be. But he knew they were going to have fun. And to help with that, he did a lot of wonderful gimmicks. The very first gimmick he came up with was he used it twice in his very first movie, Macabre, and then in a movie, he used it again in like 1961 for a movie called Homicidal. So this gimmick worked. He got an insurance policy from Lloyd's of London to cover the insurance, the funeral expenses of anyone who died of fright during the film, right? If you've seen these films, the chances are probably pretty low that someone was going to die of fright. But that was part of the ad. This movie is so scary you might die. Don't worry. We're all set. We'll take care of you. You would have hearses parked outside. You would have medical people dressed as medical staff. They probably weren't really medical staff, kind of hanging out, and built all this sensation around it. Now, Macabre is actually a pretty good movie. Homicidal's not bad either. But the idea was to get people to the point where they had to know. They had to see this thing. Now that's where he began, was with the insurance gimmicks. But then he started coming up with other things. His next big gimmick was for a movie called The Tingler. It had Vincent Price. And it actually has what for me is one of the most chilling scenes I've seen in a movie. It starts out with a woman. She's deaf. And she's mute, and she is being terrorized by something. And the woman who plays her is an incredible mind. You feel everything that she's doing, but she reaches a point where she's hit by that terror, but she cannot scream. And the whole point of the movie is there's this thing that is attached to you with your fear. And the only way to get rid of it is to scream. And if you don't, it might kill you. Right? And so Vincent Price is a scientist trying to figure all this out. He catches one. And of course, there's a point where the Tingler gets loose in a movie theater. And then the lines blur because you see the shadow of the Tingler crawl over the lens of the movie projector. Right? And then Vincent Price warns you that the Tingler is loose in the theater. Everyone must scream! Scream for your lives! All right? Well, there were a few people in the audience that were paid to scream. Right? Every once in a while, there were people in the audience that had these little tickly, stringy things that they could sort of move around at people's feet in the dark because there's a darkness scene at this point. They had speakers. Odd speakers that would make weird sounds of the Tingler. But the most fun part was they had some of the seats with a little buzzer wired into them. And so when this Tingler was supposed to be out getting you with his terrible electric shock, some people got a little buzz. Now, John Waters remembered that and going to see it. The filmmaker John Waters, yes, anyone know him? Yeah. All right, good. I'm in the right place. He said that he would specifically seek out those seats, and it wasn't real thrilling. It was like, a little pager vibration was what you got there. But Percepto, right, was the way he sold it. Now, later on, Castle went for another gimmick, trying to make sure I get these in order. This is one that I really enjoyed. This one was called Illusiono. You may have detected a pattern in how William Castle liked to name his gimmicks. Right? Now, in Illusiono, this was made for the film 13 Ghosts. And in 13 Ghosts, there were 13 ghosts, right? But these ghosts might be too frightening for some moviegoers. So, you got a little Illusiono device, and it was a piece of cardboard, and it had a red lens at the top and a blue lens at the bottom. And in all the scenes with the ghost, there was a color segment. You're going to see a little bit of an example of the colors up here. And the ghost, it used techniques similar to what they used for 3D, except instead of screwing up the picture to mess with your eyes, the ghosts were in one color, and the scene was tinted another. So if you do not wish to see the ghosts, you look through the red side, and you will not see the ghosts. If you want to see the ghosts, you look through the blue side, and you'll be able to see them because of the contrast. Genius. I'm told it didn't work real well. You can still kind of see the ghosts anyway. But who wanted to not see the ghosts, right? Everybody wanted to see the ghosts. And they all went home with this funky little souvenir. So that was Illusiono. I love that. I absolutely love that. But then the big one was Percepto. No, it was Emergo. I wrote that down wrong. It was Emergo, and this happened in the Vincent Price classic House on Haunted Hill, one of my favorite of all the William Castle films. And in Emergo, during a key point in the film, a ghost would actually physically materialize and float over the audience. Wow! Holy crap, I gotta see this. And if you see the film, there's a point, there are a couple of points in the film where a skeleton appears. I don't want to spoil it for those of you that haven't seen it, but there are these 2 points. And basically what Emergo was there was a little box at one corner of the theater next to the screen. And when the skeleton appeared on the screen, this funky plastic or maybe even paper mache skeleton would come out of that box and sort of hunker its way along this line to another box over there. And then later on, when the skeleton appeared again, it went back the other way. That was Emergo. And my understanding is that when this happened, I actually finally saw a demonstration of it. I found a clip that showed someone recreating this. And it was the audience reacted with the same sort of rage that you might expect. There was laughter and applause and screaming and fist shaking because it was just so stupid. But William Castle understood that the whole point of this was to have fun. That was the whole point. So here I am. And I'm just going to blink the screen for a moment. So I am doing a screening. I screen all kinds of films. They tend to be films before the year 2000 because a lot of the horror films after 2000 kind of suck. Sorry, but it's true. There are a few. There are a few that I do plan to show, but I don't want to show something that came out real recently. I want to have something that maybe people haven't had a chance to see yet. So lots of 80s, lots of stuff like that. But I was going to show one that I was really looking forward to. I was going to show Arachnophobia. Right? I'm very excited for this. This was a great film. This is one of the films that prompted the PG-13 rating. Right? This is Steven Spielberg. It's a really well done film. And I announce this proudly because we don't announce the films publicly. I give people clues, but you really got to come and just enjoy the film. Trust me. But for people at show, I give them a preview of what's going to come next month, so they will know. So I showed Arachnophobia. I am very excited about this. And about half of the people in the room made the same face you did. And some of them actually said out loud, "Oh, I don't know if I can do that." Well, crap. Because it's what I'm going to show. I mean, I can't make a big announcement. I had a great movie I was going to show you, but too many people are scared of it, so we're going to watch the Wiggles. So then I thought, well, what would William Castle do? And I realized there was an opportunity. And so I'm going to show you what I did and the trailer I created to get people to come. And they did.
I'm Saul Ravencraft. The theme for our movie this month is spiders. Now, I understand that some people are triggered by spiders due to a phobia, and it is difficult for them to see spiders, especially spiders in a horror film. At Ravencraft's Vault of Horror, we are always concerned about cinematic safety, and we take this issue seriously. So we have devised a new technology to help those of you who are uncomfortable with spiders to be able to enjoy the film. We call it the Spider Hider. It's a simple device being deployed by simply placing it in front of your eye. We have altered the film to give you a warning when a spider seed is coming. You will see a signal flash on the screen to let you know the spiders will be shown. At that point, simply deploy your spider hider, and you will not have to see the spiders on the screen. An audible tone will let you know when it is safe to look again. device will help someone comfortably enjoy the film who otherwise might not be able to. The spider hiders are limited quantity, first come, first served. If you are unable to obtain a spider hider and you need one, when you see the signal on the film, you can simply close your eyes. We hope that this will encourage more of you to come and enjoy Spiders Are Our Friends this month at Ravencraft's Vault of Horror, Monday, March 11th at Mr. Trapp's, and Thursday, March 14th at Doc's Drive-In. Thank you.
So that's what I did. I created the spider hider. I put that trailer up well in advance so the people that seemed squeamish about the spiders could know, okay, maybe this will be all right. Had a really good turnout, and some people actually used them. I remember one guy in particular that was, he did not want to see the spiders. And I would see every once in a while one of those scenes would come up and he'd be sitting there with a spider hider, but he had a good time. And that was the whole point, was to have a good time. And William Castle understood that idea of just creating a party. So, you know, my direction in 2025, I've created a new site, a new idea that I call 364 Unhalloweens, right? Halloween comes once a year, right? But there are 364 Unhalloweens that we could celebrate. And so, and that connects with everything that I'm interested in: horror movies, paranormal stuff, weird things, dressing up, being who you want to be. It's all there. So I'm actually having my first ever Unhalloween celebration on November 9th. It's going to be at the new Nature's Treasures Event Center, which is just south of Breaker Lane, as they're getting ready to move. And it's free. Dress up, show up. You can find out more easily about that. I wish I had a spider hider for everyone. I do not. I do have a get out of hell free card for anyone who wants one. Now, some people think they have the authority to send you to hell. They do not. So you just show them this and say, "Not today, Karen." It's fun to watch their face. But if you enjoy horror movies, I think you'll enjoy watching it with other people. Ravencraft's Vault of Horror is the second Monday of each month at Mr. Trapp's over at 183. And then we've got another screening on the big drive-in screen at Doc's Drive-In Theater on the second Thursday. And if you look up Saul Ravencraft, I'm not a real hard name to find. You'll be able to find me on Facebook and start keeping up. And I hope you will get with me afterwards and get your get out of hell free card, because I want you protected. I really do. And I'm happy to answer any questions I can. I'm not the expert on William Castle, so if you want to ask me a bunch of personal questions about him, that's not what we're going to do. But I'm happy to talk about, well, I don't know what we're going to talk about. It's kind of up to them, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 But first, let's do a round of applause for our friend. All right. So, who's got questions? All right. Perfect.
Stunned silence.
Great talk.
Oh, thank you.
So, yeah, for sure. I found the Castle movies through, this may be heresy, but through the terrible 2000s remakes for the most part. You know, see the new ones that are coming out when you grow up, and then I was like, these came from somewhere, and I went back and found the old ones and enjoyed the heck out of them. I had a soft spot in my heart for the 13 Ghosts remake, you know,
Right.
depending on what your opinion. But is there any remake that you have also a soft spot for that you enjoy, even though it's a terrible 2000s horror movie? And is there an original Castle movie that you would like to see a remake of? at some point down the road that hasn't gotten treatment yet.
So first, about this word remake. I find in many cases remakes are lazy. I feel that people, I mean, back in the good old days, what they would do, they didn't do remakes, they did rip-offs, right? We would put our crazy killer in a different Halloween mask, and he would be completely different. And sometimes it just didn't work, but sometimes they would add just enough originality that it would become this whole other thing. And I love when that happens. But I do get interested when a remake, a remake is usually a Me Too movie. Not that kind of Me Too movie, right? But I could do that too. Except for the writing and the creativity and all that stuff they did. I can just copy them. But when a remake goes back to the original source material and finds other stuff and looks at it through a different lens, I think that can be really interesting. So a great example of that is The Thing from Another World, with James Arnaz as the giant space carrot man, right? Now, that's a good movie, and there are actually a lot of pretty chilling moments in that movie and some chilling ideas in there. But then it's sort of racked by the sensibilities of the day and how they had to talk about those things and portray those things. Now, then you go and look at John Carpenter's The Thing, right? And he went back to the original source material. And the 1950s film completely left out the idea of the shape changing. But that was in the story. And so John Carpenter gave us this whole other view. I enjoy watching both of them, honestly, because there's good stuff with both of them. Another fascinating one is The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price. Now, this was based on a story by Matheson. James Matheson? Am I saying that right? My brain's not functioning. We'll just call him Matheson. All right, that way, look it up. Well, the screenplay was also adapted by Matheson, so that was his story, right? And it's a good movie. It's a weird movie. Later on, there was The Omega Man with Charlton Heston, right? Based on the same story, I Am Legend. Guess who did the screenplay? It was Matheson. Matheson remaking his own stuff, right? So when you get into something like that, where you got somebody taking another swing at their own material, I can't really fault that. But in general, difference in the approach to structure of the film and how it brought you in. There are some good ones, right? There are absolutely some good ones, but I find, especially during the first 10, 15 years, it's kind of sparse. And maybe a lot of it is because there was this obsession with remaking movies that were perfectly fine, and that may have jaded me just a little bit. I try to take each one as they come. But I guess the other thing is, for my goal for the movies I choose to show, I want to show people things that they haven't seen before. And I'm fascinated by the number of movies that I think are fantastic that were made before some people were born that they ignore because the world didn't exist before they were born. And so this becomes a whole new experience for them. The last movie I showed was Ghostbusters because I wanted to. I wanted to watch that movie.
My wife loves horror films.
Sleep lightly.
Do you have any recommendations for films that are in the horror genre that do not feature people suffering, or is that intrinsic to the genre?
All right, so there's always some level of suffering because horror by its nature is about discomfort, right? But I think there's a difference between experiencing horror and terror and discomfort and torture porn, right? And I generally don't gravitate toward movies that are just slasher films and that kind of thing. Yes, the classics like Halloween and that sort of thing. I kind of got to honor those because, I was there. I remember how they changed things. But I haven't seen any of the Saw films. I sort of want to see the one with Carrie Elwes in it because I like Carrie Elwes, but maybe just that scene, But the whole concept doesn't appeal to me. I like my horror more supernatural. So I like crazy witch movies and vampire movies and ghost movies. I will tell you, a great starting place for you is a movie. I think it was 1981, but you'll be able to find it. It's George C. Scott. It's called The Changeling. George C. Scott, real actor, right? Serious dude. And the movie begins, okay, spoiler alert, but it's in the first scene. This guy is out driving with his family, and he sees his wife and his daughter killed in a terrible car accident while he's trapped in the phone booth. That's the way we start. And he is in deep grief. He's coming out of that period, and he's a composer. So he's moved to a little town where a friend of his works at a small university. He says, come out, teach some classes, and start getting back. So he rents a house, he's doing this, but the house needs to tell him something. And this, there are some violent ideas in it because, it's death and all that we're dealing with. Ghosts don't come from happy endings. But Scott plays this like a man of the early 80s. He's a strong guy and he's getting on with things, but yet he feels this grief, and that creeps out every once in a while. And the story and the way it all plays, there's one scene with a little seance that goes on that as I'm thinking about what happens out of that, I'm getting goosebumps all over again because it's just chilling and wonderful. And there are other stories. So maybe what you do is start finding the genres of stories that you connect with, and they will probably naturally connect with things that make you more comfortable. And remember, you may not have a spider hider, but when something comes up that makes you uncomfortable, you can always close your eyes, right?
He just walks out of the room.
Well, maybe you could convince him to stay, but just sort of hide himself.
All right. That was an excellent suggestion and many good questions. And I see one question from here. Oh, no. Okay, what's the movie?
Well, y'all get together and trade movies, right?
Well, it was one of my favorite movies as a kid. It was Lady in White in the 80s with the woman who played the mother from the TV show with Tony Danza.
Right. I had that trailer as part of the pre-show just this last month, and that's one I haven't seen. I need to go dig it up.
I think that one is still actually pulled up.
Yeah.
It's not a horror. It's horror, but it's not.
All right, we got to take this to after the show because it's probably not as fun for the people on Twitch. But good stuff, good stuff. I have a question, actually.
All right.
It's related to the gimmicks. And my question is, if you could travel back to the time when these were actually being deployed in theaters, which one would you want to actually experience as an audience member yourself?
Well, okay, so I'm lousy with favorites. I think that's the most ridiculous thing. I remember when we took my 5-year-old daughter to Disney World, and we came back, and people had said, "What was your favorite part?" And she'd say, "All of it," and then that was the end of the conversation. Because it's grown-ups asking stupid questions
Hey!
to a kid, right? When they could have said, "Hey, what's something you remember?" And it could have gone on for hours, but they made her pick one thing, and she wisely refused to. Good for her. I think out of all of them, I would want to see Emergo, just because it would be so much fun to watch House on a Haunted Hill for the first time with people. And even though Emergo was so ridiculous and I would be screaming in rage with all the other teenagers there, I love Vincent Price. I love that film. It hits on so many levels. There are parts of it that are genuinely dark, and there are parts of it that are ridiculous. And it's just a fun film. So it'd be fun to see that. Yeah. So that's what I'll pick. But I want to be there for all of them.
Excellent. All right, so. Maybe better name time?
You have to project.
Wait, if I hold it just for
All right. I think there was one last question to bring us home. Is that still the case? All right. Try not to make it a dumb adult question.
I was wondering what your thoughts are on Lars von Trier.
On what?
Lars von Trier.
Lars von Trier.
So that name does not jump out to me, so I don't have a lot of immediate thoughts. Can you give me some context? It may be someone that I've heard of but don't realize I've heard of.
There's a huge contrast.
Hello? Okay. There's a huge contrast between a show he did, which I would think would be a horror that you'd enjoy, called Kingdom. Kingdom Hospital was the remake.
Yeah, I saw some of that.
So you want the Lars von Trier, not the more modern Stephen King one?
Oh, well, that's the one I saw, so I'm already lost.
Go
It's very good. But he also has movies that are a completely different genre of horror, but they're traumatic.
Was he an American filmmaker or
No, he's Danish.
Danish? All right.
So,
Did his films tend to get dubbed, or are they largely Danish films?
He's got
Both. He's done a number that are in English and a number that are in.
Willem Dafoe was in one of his most disturbing movies.
Oh, there you go. That's a good matchup. I like that. Well, I'm curious about all this stuff, so I'd love to watch pretty much any movie you'll point me toward, and I appreciate that. I'll dig in. I'm sure. Yeah, I'll have to do something over the Christmas holidays, right?
This is true. All right, y'all. I think that is our cue to
But
give
come talk to me afterwards,
another
right? Yeah.
Sure.